Hi, my name is Shavena, and I'm ANBU's outreach lead and independent sexual violence advisor. And today I'll be in conversation with Nibarna. Hi, Nibarna.
Hi, I'm Nibarna, and I'm one of the trustees at ANBU UK, and I look after the therapeutic interventions part for survivors of child sexual abuse in the Tamil community. And we'll be talking a little bit more about this support here. So I'll hand it back to you, Shavina.
Thanks. So in our conversation today, we're going to be covering a brief summary of the disclosure pathways um, and what this means in terms of medical and legal support after recent or historic sexual abuse. Um, just to note, we will be using CSA as an abbreviation for child sexual abuse, just to note, and also the trigger warning that we will be talking about rape, sexual assault, and CSA. So please do take care of yourself if this will cause distress.
Thank you, Shavina. So we'll first talk a little bit about the legal procedures and the legal pathways first. So, Shavina, you are a trained ISVA at the moment. So, could you tell us a little bit more about what options survivors have for anybody that's experienced non-recent sexual abuse?
Sure. So firstly, I just wanted to mention that not everyone decides to report. It's very much a personal decision. And as a survivor, you shouldn't feel pressurized to report. Um, this is important, especially because it can be quite a long and drawn out process, and there is no guarantee that you will get the outcome you wish to see. So it's best to kind of bear that in mind and when you're thinking about this. In terms of non-recent cases, um, if you decide to report, it doesn't matter how much time has passed, you can still report, there's still the option. If you've experienced CSA, your case will go through a kind of special unit called Operation Hydrant, and that's the team set up to coordinate investigations into non-recent CSA. In terms of options, if you don't wish to report, you can get support and advice from charities such as Rape Crisis and Survivors UK, or you can also seek out the support of an ISVA, such as myself.
Thank you. That's really helpful to know. I think sometimes it can be really difficult to clearly know what options there are, especially after quite a traumatic event that's happened or one that's happened a while ago and different processes were going on at the moment. So, how does this work for survivors of recent sexual assault or rape? Is it similar or is it a little bit different?
Yeah, so it's slightly different, mainly because of the kind of the time issue in that case. So with recent cases, you should report if you choose to report as soon as possible. So by calling 999. And also you should bear in mind to keep any kind of clothing and make sure you don't wash, as this can be used to collect evidence. You can choose to go to a sexual assault referral centre where they can do a medical exam and store any evidence. So if you don't immediately choose to report and you change your mind later, the police can use that evidence. If you don't wish to report, you can get emotional and practical support from the charities I mentioned earlier or from an ISVA.
Amazing. Thank you. It's really helpful to hear that out loud. I think sometimes you can read this on websites and signposting, but actually hearing it from you and knowing it's coming from a culturally sensitive place as well, it's really interesting to hear that.
Sure. I guess I wanted to ask you some questions now. So I mentioned about kind of a medical exam, and maybe thought you could elaborate on what kind of medical support there is for survivors of recent sexual assault or rape who are thinking about reporting.
Yes, absolutely. So to echo what you said, survivors may or may not want to go through medical examinations or go to a sexual assault referral centre. And there is no right or wrong way of processing this. I think what might be the most important part is finding your way of regaining control, finding your way of regaining what your pace is, because that's what's most likely lost when a traumatic incident takes place. And this starts from making choices that feel most comfortable for you. So a medical checkup that's got nothing to do with reporting or disclosure pathways might be a really important part of your self-care after a traumatic incident. So making sure that there's a sexual health screening to make sure that you're all okay from STIs, any concerns that you might have about pregnancies as well as something that you can discuss, and you can go to your nearest A&E, particularly if you've got serious injuries as well from the serious assault. They might refer you on to a sexual assault referral centre or somewhere else, but that would be given your context and what's you feel important for you, so you can make a choice there. And you might also want to have a think about who you want to take with you, who you trust, because it can be quite a distressing experience. So if you need some emotional support from the people around you, not to make choices because that still belongs with you, but who you trust to support you emotionally as you go through there. And that's a medical sort of checkup that you can access. And that, again, is separate from sort of the disclosure pathway.
Cool. Thank you for taking us through that kind of journey. So I wonder if you can elaborate a bit more about how the medical examination works alongside reporting to the police.
Yes, so survivors, alongside the medical health checkup, can also opt in for a forensic medical examination. And this is completed at a sexual assault referral centre or clinic. And they're dotted around the country. We've got 3 bases in London. And so during a forensic medical examination, a medical professional will collect evidence from you. And this can be skin, hair, bodily fluids, or other traces of evidence. If there are any injuries that you have, then you might be asked if they can be photographed, as well as blood and urine samples. And this is usually done in a time-sensitive frame of 72 hours. And as you mentioned, Shavena, it's advised against washing or changing your clothes as well, just to preserve what might have happened. And there are options with this. So you might have not reported to the police and you might have gone in for a forensic medical examination, and you might choose to stop the forensic medical examination at any point, because if it feels a bit intrusive or you're not ready, that's absolutely fine. And you can ask a professional to say, I don't want to go further, and that's fine. You can do that. You might go through with the forensic medical examination and then decide you want to report for the police, so they can support you to do that as well and take you through the process that Shavena mentioned for recent sexual assault or rape. You might then also decide, actually, I'm not ready to make these decisions right now, so I'm going to have a forensic medical examination, keep my samples, and depending on the sexual assault referral centre, you can keep it up to a year. And so you don't have to make choices straight away. And you might go and have a forensic medical examination, and you might decide, actually, I don't want anything to do with this after, which is also absolutely fine. So there are options. And it can feel quite intense, making a lot of choices after something traumatic that's happened to you. So again, it might be quite helpful to have someone supportive around you, but also knowing, and we'll leave some signposting here, who to talk to, because before you commit to anything, you can talk to people like Shavena, ISVA, or other helplines as well. And I think the most important thing that I would mention is to honour your own pace and to honour your own choices in this as well. So that's a lot of information in one go. So Shavina, I'll hand it back to you to think a little bit about the ISVA service that we're providing and what support we're thinking of giving, and how all of what we've spoken about today might be linked in together.
Sure. So as you kind of covered, there's kind of a lot to kind of navigate, and it can be quite difficult, and it might be useful to kind of talk through these things. And so as an ISVA, I can be there to support by talking through options, kind of acting as a sounding board, and like providing advice and guidance based on what options are available, as well as kind of signposting to the support services that are out there. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm just here to kind of listen and support. Yeah, at the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier on, it is a survivor's kind of choice about what kind of route they would like to take.
That sounds really amazing. So how can people access this service via ANBU UK?
Yeah, so we have an online form which you can find on our website. If you go under therapeutic interventions and onto the ISVA page, it's at there's a link at the bottom of the page, and you can fill out the form, and I will get back to you within kind of 3 to 5 days, and we can arrange for a time to talk and take it from there.